I want to start today with a question that, I mean, if we're being really honest with ourselves, is probably lurking in the back of everyone's mind, usually at what, like 3 in the morning? It's that universal what if.
Mm.
If you could go back right now and undo your biggest regrets, if you could take that job, say yes to that date, or I don't know, stick with those piano lessons you quit when you were 12, would you actually be happier? Would your life finally be that, perfect version of itself?
It is the ultimate question, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
the architecture of the midlife crisis, the quarter-life crisis.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's just the human condition. We are just obsessed with the road not taken. We see our lives as this rough draft, and imagine there's a polished final copy somewhere else where we made all the right moves.
Exactly. And that is the central premise of the book we're unpacking today, The Midnight Library. Now, on the surface, this is a novel, but the reason we picked this for a deep dive and why I was so excited to dig into this is that it reads much more like an emotional survival guide. It's not just a story.
It really does. Yeah. It uses that framework of fiction to do some, really heavy lifting on psychology and philosophy. So the mission for this deep dive is to look at this book not just as a narrative, but as a treatise on regret, mental health, and this really tricky kind of slippery concept of how we define a good life.
So, if you're someone who feels a bit stuck right now, and let's face it, that's most of us at some point, or you find yourself spiraling into those late night what if loops, this one is for you. We're going to unpack the insights this material offers on finding meaning when you feel like you've completely lost the plot.
And to do that, we have to start where the book starts, which is rock bottom. The source material introduces us to a character named Nora Seed, and, well, having a bad day doesn't even begin to cover it.
Oh, not at all. It's a complete collapse. When we meet Nora, the text just paints this picture of someone who is totally fundamentally disappointed with her existence. It isn't just one thing going wrong, it's everything. It feels like the universe is just piling on.
Right. It's an accumulation.
Mm.
And that's so key to understanding her mindset.
Mm.
It's not one single tragedy that breaks her. It's the relentless stripping of these perceived failures. She looks at her life, and all she sees is a monument to missed potential.
Let's look at the scorecard here because it is bleak. She loses her job, which is obviously a massive blow. Her band, which represents this huge, unfulfilled creative dream she had, is dead in the water. Her relationships have all collapsed. She's single, feels unlovable, and maybe most painfully, she's lost that connection with her family.
It feels like every single pillar that holds up a person's identity has just crumbled away.
Exactly, and she's just standing in the rubble.
What stands out in the analysis of Nora's state is the totality of it. The source describes her internal state as being caught between regret and loneliness. She looks around and confirms her own worst hypothesis. I have failed everywhere. She views her entire history not as a life lived, but as a mistake made.
That is such a heavy claustrophobic place to be. It's that feeling where the walls are closing in, and the narrative explains that this despair drives her to a singular, tragic decision. She decides that the pain of being Nora Seed just outweighs any potential of continuing. She decides life is no longer worth living.
It's a moment of profound darkness. But this is where the story pivots. It moves from this gritty, realistic drama into something metaphysical. Because in that split center between life and death after she takes that step, Nora doesn't just fade to black. She wakes up in a strange place,
The Midnight Library.
the Midnight Library. And the setting here is so important for the metaphor. It exists in this liminal space, that threshold between living and dying. But instead of a white light or pearly gates, it's a
Yay.
library.
Which I love, by the way. I feel like if I died and woke up in a library, I'd be like, okay, this isn't so bad.
It's certainly a comforting image. It's infinite shelves stretching on forever. And the mechanism here is fascinating. Every single book on those shelves represents an alternate life, a life that would have happened if Nora had made a different choice at any point.
So it's the multiverse, but organized by the Dewey Decimal System.
Precisely. It's a physical manifestation of all her missed opportunities. And standing there to help her make sense of this infinity is Mrs. Elm.
And Mrs. Elm isn't a stranger, right? This isn't just some random celestial being.
No, and this is a crucial detail for the emotional weight of the story. Mrs. Elm appears as Nora's old-school librarian. Think about what a school librarian represents, especially in literature. A figure from childhood, from a time before the failures piled up, a time when potential was still, untapped. She's the caretaker, the guide.
So the premise is set. Nora is convinced her current life, her root life, as they call it, is a dumpster fire. She believes that if she had just made different choices, any different choice, she'd be happier. Now she gets to test that hypothesis. She literally gets to pull a book off the shelf and step into that life.
It's the ultimate wish fulfillment. We all say, I wish I hadn't quit that sport, or I wish I'd moved to Paris. Nora gets to say, okay, let's see. She opens the book, and she becomes the Nora who didn't quit. She enters that consciousness.
So let's talk about these experiments, because she doesn't just try one or two. She really runs the gamut of what society tells us success looks like.
Oh, she really does. She swings for the fences. One of the first major lives she jumps into is the one where she became an Olympic swimmer.
Okay, so this is the high achievement life, physical prowess, gold medals, national hero status, the Wheaties box life.
Exactly. This is the life where she didn't quit training as a teenager. Then she tries the life where she didn't quit her band. She becomes a famous rock star. Stadium tours, adoration, being the coolest person in the room.
So we have fame and adoration covered.
Right. Then she tries the intellectual path, becoming a glaciologist, a scientist. She tries the traditional path, settled down, married, running a pub in the countryside. She even tries a life where she's just living freely in another country.
On paper, these sound like the dream. I mean, who hasn't fantasized about being a rock star or an Olympian? And initially, the source material suggests these lives seem perfect. Nora steps in and thinks, finally, this is what I was missing. This is where I was supposed to be.
That's the illusion of perfection. And this is a concept we really need to drill down on because it applies to everyone listening, not just fictional characters. When we look at someone else's life, or when we imagine the life we could have had, we're engaging in a very specific cognitive bias. We're only imagining the highlight reel.
We imagine standing on the podium with the gold medal, hearing the anthem.
Right. We imagine the applause. We don't imagine the grueling 4 a.m. training sessions in freezing water. We don't imagine the strict diet, the isolation, or the fact that your entire self-worth is tied to a stopwatch. In that Olympic life, Nora is successful, yes. But she realizes she's incredibly lonely. Her relationship with her father, which she thought success would fix, is still complicated, still transactional.
That's a massive reality check. And what about the rock star life? I feel like that's the one everyone wants. Money, fame, fans.
Turns out to be hollow. She finds herself surrounded by people but completely isolated. There are implied addiction issues, or at least this profound sense of emptiness. She realizes that being loved by a million strangers doesn't make up for not liking yourself.
So the twist found in the sources is that slowly, Nora realizes that every life has problems.
That's the kicker. We assume different means better. But the book seems to be arguing that different just means different problems. Even the lives that look successful on the outside have their own distinct heavy struggles.
So the grass isn't greener.
No. As the saying goes, it's just a different lawn. And that brings us to one of the key insights of this deep dive. The realization that a perfect life does not exist.
That is a hard pill to swallow. I think we're wired, especially with social media, to believe that there is a correct path, and if we can just find it, everything will be easy and photogenic.
It's a fantasy. But realizing it's a fantasy is actually incredibly liberating. Think about it. If a perfect life doesn't exist, you can finally stop beating yourself up for not finding it. You can stop thinking, I messed up because I'm not happy 24/7.
Yeah.
No, you're just experiencing the friction of reality, which exists in every version of life.
Okay, let's unpack this further, this idea of the friction of reality. The source material gets really deep into the nature of regret itself. There's a concept here that regret is a game of imagination. What does that mean to you?
It means that regret pulls you out of reality. Think about it. When you are regretting something, where are you living? You aren't in the present. You're living in a fantasy of the past. You are comparing your actual messy reality where you have a headache and bills to pay and it's raining with a polished imaginary scenario where you made the right choice and everything is sunny.
But that sunny scenario isn't real. It's a movie we directed in our own heads.
Exactly. It's a ghost. It's a game your mind is playing to torture you. You are comparing truth with fiction. Of course, the fiction looks better. It hasn't been touched by reality yet. It hasn't had to deal with boredom or flu season or heartbreak.
That connects to the shift Nora experiences. There's a line in the source, you can't change the past, but you can understand the present.
Exactly. And this leads to Nora's core realization. This is the pivot point of the entire narrative. After trying all these lives, the Olympian, the rock star, the wife, she realizes that the problem was never her actual life.
Wait, hold on. She started the book, convinced her life was a disaster. She was ready to leave it forever. How can the problem not be her life?
The problem was never the events of her life. The problem was how she saw her life. It was her perception. She was viewing her existence through a lens of lack. She was looking at the negative space, the things she didn't have, the books she didn't write.
So she was so focused on the hypothetical book she didn't write, she couldn't read the one she was actually living in.
Beautifully put. Every choice involves some form of loss. This is fundamental, right? Opportunity cost. If you choose to be a doctor, you lose the chance to be a professional pianist. If you choose to travel the world, you lose the stability of a home base. You cannot have it all. Nora realizes that the life we imagine is only perfect on the surface because it lacks that friction of reality.
This feels like it connects directly to the themes of mental health the source discusses, because Nora isn't just sad, she's dealing with profound depression. How does the book portray this struggle?
The portrayal is very nuanced and, honestly, very respectful. The source notes that depression and sadness aren't depicted as weaknesses or character flaws. Nora isn't weak for feeling this way. Sadness is presented as a state of being, a heavy, sometimes overwhelming state, but part of the human spectrum.
And asking for help.
Crucially, asking for help, like Nora leaning on Mrs. Elm, is portrayed as a strength. It's not about snapping out of it, it's about navigating through it. And that leads into the redefinition of what a good life actually is.
I think this is my favorite part of the analysis, because we have these societal checklists. Rich, check. Famous, check. Married, check. If you have those, you have a good life. But the book just flips that table over.
Completely. According to the source, a good life isn't defined by external validation or status. A good life is defined as being alive, aware, and present.
Alive, aware, and present. Notice that none of those things require a specific job title.
Or a specific salary. Or a relationship status. It's about your connection to the moment you are in. Can you feel the rain on your face? Can you taste your coffee? Can you actually be here rather than wishing you were there?
There's also this interesting paradox mentioned in the source about choices. We tend to think if I had infinite choices, I'd have infinite happiness. We want options. We want the menu with 500 items.
But the source argues the opposite. Infinite choices do not equal infinite happiness. In fact, having every option available usually paralyzes us.
The paradox of choice.
Exactly. If you walk into an ice cream shop and there are 3 flavors, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, you pick one and you're happy. If there are 1,000 flavors, you pick one. But you spend the whole time eating it thinking, maybe I should have had the salted caramel, or the cookie dough, or the mango sorbet.
You're more likely to regret the choice because the opportunity cost is so much higher. You're constantly wondering about the 999 things you didn't pick.
Yes. When Nora sees these infinite lives in the library, she realizes that the sheer volume of possibility is overwhelming. It's suffocating. It makes it impossible to commit to anything. The library shows her that chasing those other flavors, those other lives, just keeps her from tasting the one she actually has.
I want to touch on why this story hits so hard for so many people. Because the Midnight Library wasn't just a book. It was a massive phenomenon. The source mentions the writing style, specifically simple, emotional, and thought-provoking.
The accessibility is key here. The author, Matt Haig, uses short chapters. It moves fast. It's not a dense academic philosophy textbook on existentialism. It's a story. But because it's simple, the message lands with a much deeper impact. It's designed for the modern attention span, but delivers this timeless wisdom.
And the target audience, I mean, I feel a little called out here, but the source says it's for people stuck in what-if loops and those doubting themselves, which is basically everyone at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday.
It resonates because it validates that feeling of being stuck. It says, I see you, I know that feeling. But then it offers a way out. And the narrative arc is crucial here. The source reminds us that while the book starts with profound sadness, remember, Nora starts at rock bottom. It ends with hope. It's a journey from the dark night of the soul into the morning.
So let's bring this all together. We've looked at Nora's despair, the magic of the library, the illusion of the perfect life, and the power of changing your perspective. If we had to distill this down to the ultimate takeaway, what is it?
If I had to summarize the heart of this deep dive, the ultimate lesson is that you don't need to find a perfect life. You need to learn to live your own.
That's it. Stop looking for the exit door to a better life and start decorating the room you're in.
And there is a message of reassurance in the source that I think every listener needs to hear right now, especially if they're feeling a bit like Nora at the beginning. The source says, you are not a failure. You are not late. And your story isn't over yet.
Your story isn't over yet. I love that. It's so easy to feel like we've missed the boat or that we made a wrong turn 5 years ago that we can't recover from. But as long as you're here, there's more to write.
Exactly. The book isn't finished. You're just turning a page.
Okay, we're coming to the end of this deep dive into the Midnight Library. We've unpacked the heavy stuff regret, the multiverse of sadness, the paralysis of choice, but I want to leave everyone with a final thought to carry into their day.
The source leaves us with this specific concept to mull over. The only way to learn what to do with your life is to live it.
It's so simple, but we complicate it. We overthink, we analyze, we plan, we make spreadsheets about our 5-year plan.
We stand in the library staring at the spines of the books, terrified to pick one because we might pick the wrong one. We spend all our energy analyzing the options rather than experiencing any of them.
So here is our question for you to take with you. Are you spending too much time analyzing the books on the shelf, worrying about which one is the right one rather than just pulling one down, opening it, and actually reading it?
Because you can't enjoy the story if you never open the book.
That's all for this deep dive. Go live your story. Thanks for listening.